All right, it looks like we're live for today's webinar. Hello, everybody. And I'll just take a quick, have a quick check. Can you guys hear me? The audio should be working. Excellent. So, yeah, so if you guys have come to join today's webinar, which will be focused on IELTS writing task 2, uh, then you're in the right place. And in today's webinar, we're going to talk about one question type, which is called the direct questions. And we're going to focus on the topic of families. But just before we jump into the webinar, I want to ask you guys a couple of questions and about your preparation for IELTS writing. Okay, so the first question I have for you guys is about the difficulties. So when writing essays, there could be a number of difficulties. One of them could be the time management. So writing your essay within 40 minutes or thereabouts. You need to finish the writing test in 1 hour, by the way. So what about time management? Is that the most difficult thing for you? A second issue could be the grammatical accuracy and grammatical range. So if you have a good grasp of how to change the length of your sentences, the style of your sentences, making less errors, this might be less difficult for you, but for others, that might be the challenge. So grammatical range and accuracy. What about having enough knowledge? That could be the third issue, is to not have enough ideas or enough understanding of the question so that you can express the right ideas. Very, very common issue for a lot of students. So we had time management, we had grammar, and we also had uh, brainstorming ideas. So what do you guys think is the most difficult aspect for you? Okay, we've got a few students mentioning organizing ideas, brainstorming ideas, grammar as well, structuring ideas. I guess that will go on to the third points. Grammar. Okay, it looks like you guys have a similar range of issues. Like some of you, like you guys find various parts difficult, different to each other. So everyone's challenge will be unique, if I should say it that way. Okay. Well, for today's webinar, we're going to focus more on point number 2 and point number 3. Yeah, time management. I will give you guys some tips at the end of the webinar, but that's something that you should practice in your study time, not really going to improve that by watching today's webinar. But hopefully, by the end of this webinar, you should have some understanding about what you need to do in terms of responding to the question and also the types of language that you can use or how to improve your grammar for writing these questions. So, without further ado, I think we will jump into the webinar. Let's go. So, by the end of this webinar, more specifically, you will understand what a direct question essay is. Now, don't forget about the other questions. There are about 5 or 6 different types of questions that come up on task 2, and we're just focusing on one of them today. Planning your essay using a structure. So I will give you the outline of the main things that you need to do here. Nothing too complicated when you start learning it. Many of you probably already know this by now. And we're also going to look at the language, as I said, uh, more to do with linking expressions and some keywords that you use in essay writing. And we're going to look at ideas and vocabulary related to the topic, which is family life. Okay, looking at the question now. So you will receive a question of about 2 or 3 sentences, and the first sentence will be the topic, and at the end you will see the question type. So we'll go through and read that one now. In recent years, the family structure has changed as well as family roles. What are the changes occurring? Do you think these changes are positive or negative? Okay, so talking about family structures, um, I will try to read this question 2 or 3 times and understand what it means. Okay, so the way that families look, the makeup of families is different. I guess by this question, they are saying that it's going to be different than it was before. This term over here, we'll just get this one here. So we have something called family roles. And when we talk about roles, we are relating to responsibilities and the typical activities that each family member does. So it might be that you might have one role could be the breadwinner or the person who works the longest hours in the family, the main worker or main employee. It could be, for example, the main domestic helper or the person who helps around the house, helps with childcare. In many families, that could be 2 people doing this different tasks, different roles, or perhaps both of them do a little bit of each role. And then this part here really is what I want to do is underline it and just see, okay, are they asking me for an opinion here? What about question 1? There's 2 questions. What are the changes occurring? Do you guys think they're asking for opinion? Okay, most students are saying no. So I understand it that when we write about this question, we are going to be a little bit more objective. So we will step away from the question and we will look from an outside point of view. Okay, how about question number 2? Opinion or not? Yes, okay, so most of you guys saying that this time we require opinion. How do we know this? There's some words in the question that tell us. Okay, do you think? Do you think is the key phrase? Yeah, so you're going to respond directly to that in your answer and say something like, in my opinion, I believe that these changes or yeah, these developments are more positive than they are negative. So just take some time to understand the question. It really helps you to stay on track and be more direct in your answer. So we identify the parts, we underline keywords. When you underline keywords like family roles, you might want to think of some synonyms, some different ways to say what the writer of this question has said. Okay, there we go. And it says next, decide on your overall response. So what I like to do is I like to take the question sheet and write down plan. I will actually write all of this down. I will section it off. And before I even start writing, excuse me for my poor handwriting, I would just make a note of my ideas, the first things that come into my head, and I will put them on the paper. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. But the reason we do this is that it will save us time when we're writing, and it will prevent us from being confused or needing to change ideas and things like that. So always come up with a plan. This is what we're doing here. Okay, so we have the first part is relating to question one, changes in family structure and roles. So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think in your country, what are the changes that have been happening in families? You can answer one about the structure, or you can answer about the roles. Okay, Rania says women started working. So that's a definitely a relevant idea. Nice job. Okay, Turkey says strict rules. So there are stricter rules than there were in the past. Okay, interesting. And make sure that when you're coming up with these ideas, they're actually talking about something that is different than it was before. Okay, both parents work, only father, if I just see it here, only father, only the father works in some cases, it has decreased. I'm not sure if you're saying, Alberto, the time that the father has spent with their children is decreasing more nowadays. So you just want to make that part clear. More time in job, less time with kids. A lot of people are mentioning time. Even children are beginning to work. Okay, very interesting. All right, so let's have a look at the key points here. Well, here it says grandparents no longer live with their families. So I think if you look at many countries around the world today, you will see that the nucleus of the family lives alone, so mother, father, and children. Whereas in the past, grandparents also lived in the same building or even in the same home as their parents. Yeah, as we can see, this could be a relevant idea. The second point is about women being more likely to work than in the past. So in the past, there might have been some restrictions for women to join the workforce, but this is becoming much more of a common trend nowadays. Much more likely that women are taking up careers, pursuing careers as well. In many parts of the world, it could be argued that that is happening. Now, guys, maybe you say, well, in my country, that's not the case. Uh, but I do know that in many countries, this is what's happening. So it's up to you, your choice, if you want to talk about something that has changed in your country or something that you see more generally around the world. Okay, here we next move on to our plan and we try to write 2 or 3 bullet points about whether we think this is positive or negative. So thinking about the changes that you mentioned, maybe thinking about your own ideas, do you think it's positive or negative? So both positive and negative is going to be difficult to write in the IELTS writing task 2 in a short amount of time, and it could be confusing. So you just want to take a second to think, okay, is there a way that I can lean on one side of the fence? So I'm going to say that there are many cases which it is negative, but I think there are more cases where this trend is positive. By doing this, your answer will be much clearer, I would say. Okay, so in any case, there is a mix. Very, very interesting. People are saying different things here. And Sally says, for children, it is negative. So it's a good way is to write from one perspective in your essay, or maybe you will mention multiple perspectives. But when you're writing about your idea, you can focus on one, and you could say in your conclusion, from the child's perspective, there are a lot of negative aspects to this. However, from an adult's point of view, perhaps it's more beneficial. You can say it like that as well. Okay, so some of you guys are mentioning that this could be a positive trend for women. Okay, so here we have a negative idea, which is older people maybe become lonely and unable to support their families. So we are thinking that older people are moving away from the immediate family. So there could be some negative aspects for this point of view. So that's what they're mentioning there. And on the positive side, they say that there tends to be greater opportunities and more flexibility for women nowadays. So many of you guys mentioned that point. All right, interesting. So what we do at this stage is we spend 5 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes. You might get quicker at this when you practice, but even allowing up to 10 minutes to write down all of your ideas and get them very clear in your mind will help you to write the essay quicker. And you might even want to give a couple more details for this plan if you decide to spend more time. And the reason I say that is because the ideas can often be the part that takes a long time, but once you know what you're trying to say, you can fit it into this simple structure. And this simple structure you can learn at home without knowing the topic or without knowing what question is going to come on the exam. And uh, basically, in the introduction, what we're going to do is we're going to do something called paraphrase the question, which means that we're going to take whatever the topic is and we're going to rewrite it in a different way. I will give you guys an example of what I mean by this in a moment. So yeah, this could be a very good opportunity to demonstrate your vocabulary. The other thing is a thesis statement, and this sentence here, we're just going to use it to organize our essay. All right, so we also have a body paragraph. We actually have two body paragraphs. And I will just ask you guys, what do you think we should do in the body paragraph? Okay, some of you are mentioning that my audio was cutting out. Hopefully you can hear me still, although it may be the case that my Wi-Fi might cut out for 30 seconds. So if that does happen, just um, bear in mind, I'll ask you to stick around. Okay, very interesting. You guys are saying, let's just go up here, scroll up. Main topic sentence. Yes, that's going to be something we'll talk about. Changing structures, example. Overall review. Overall review sounds like something you would put in the conclusion, I would say. Maybe the introduction. Let's see, topic sentence, body, conclude sentence. Okay, I kind of see where you're going with that one, although we'll be a little bit more specific. Kusum says main idea, reason, and example. Okay, that is a good point. Yeah, definitely. All right, so if I just show you guys here, so what we're going to do is we're going to directly answer the first question because this is a two-question essay. That means one question per body paragraph. The second point is we're going to extend what we just said. So if the first part is the answer to the question or the what, then the next part is going to be the why. So you're going to give an explanation as to why this is a main idea that answers the question. And in this third part, you could do a number of things. One of the things that you can do is give an example. So you explain some situation in the real world where this can be viewed. You maybe even give an example of the type of people that are involved in the situation or what they are doing. Yeah, so we make this related to the real world. Another way that you can finish off the body paragraph is you can talk about wider consequences. So, like, how is this such an important thing for society? What are the results in the long term? So, uh, instead of just answer question, give reason, give an example, the other way you can do this is answer question, give reason, and give a result or a consequence. Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is, it's not rocket science here. We're going to do exactly the same thing, but for the second question. Um, yeah, so it's uh it's the case that we have a pretty simple structure here, yeah, guys. So one more thing is the conclusion. We summarize the answer to both questions. You're going to see examples of that later. And in this structure, we have four paragraphs, and you can apply this to any question on task two writing. And once you learn this format, it's going to be a lot more manageable for you to answer or to write the full essay. Yeah. So usually I recommend going for four paragraphs in total. Okay. And if we just zone in and we look at the introduction here, just change the size of. I see some questions in the chat box here. Okay. Um, all right. Well, you're asking if it's a different question type, what should you do in body A and body B? Well, I would say it's a little bit different. You can apply four paragraphs to the essay still, but in terms of what you put in those paragraphs, it will be a little bit different. And I recommend you guys, if you're interested in the other question types, you can attend a webinar on the other webinar at a future date. Yeah. So we'll just focus on direct questions today. And for general IELTS, well, this is actually academic IELTS, but task two is pretty much the same for in most cases, if not all of the time. It's actually that the writing task one is usually the one that is different with the general. Okay, so introduction. So we have a few things that we will be thinking about here when we paraphrase the question. And yeah, if I just remind you guys, so paraphrasing the question really comes here for the main part. So this is the topic, and I don't want to repeat this sentence. So instead of saying in recent years, I might say in recent times, or I might say in the recent past. And I would just think about some other way in which I can phrase this at this point here. And I'll give you some more examples of that, but that's pretty much what we're looking at here. But yeah, we're looking at changing the words or changing the form of the words. What does that mean? Well, if I have the word benefit, benefit is a noun. Well, I could change the word form to an adjective, such as beneficial. And that shows a strong vocabulary, even though the word is the same, you have changed the form of the word. Voice, pretty much for essays, we're going to take a formal tone in our essays, and we're also going to take kind of a neutral tone in the body paragraphs and not give too much away. That would be the best approach. We will think about synonyms and changing words completely. So those are the three things that we will do. Okay, let's see. Now, I will ask you guys to read that first sentence again, and you can write it in your own words. You can also choose this one here. You can start with this. And how would you continue the rest of this sentence? So just take a minute to think about how you would do that. How would you change over the last few? Okay, decades. Decades is a good one. Few times doesn't match because time is uncountable. So you don't usually put an S on the end, at least you wouldn't in this case. Okay, family responsibilities have changed of the last few years, Beatrice says. That's a good way to phrase it. Let's see. How did they write it here? Well, they said over the last few decades, the traditional family unit. Okay, so the family structure has been changed to the traditional family unit, has experienced significant. What do you guys think? Which word fits the blank space here? Okay, so you guys are going to say changes. Yeah, I think and this is what I'm talking about when I say changing the word form. So changed from a verb becomes a noun. How would you finish the rest of this part, both in terms of how it is? Okay, let's have a look at the blank space. So, oh, affected, both in terms of how it is affected. So they're talking about the roles now. So the way that the different responsibilities that people have. So the way that is structured, I guess or it's talking about the size and the family structure. I see. Okay, so that's what they did there. And in the roles by each family member, how can we fill in the blank this time? Dedicated. Dedicated sounds more like somebody who's trying to do something. But this is like being owned by someone. Possessed. Yeah, possessed would work. How about played? Yeah, okay. Played is the most common one there. All right, so we have changed the first sentence. This is paraphrasing. Now we're going to do the thesis statements. Okay, and usually we just say something like the following essay will, in this essay I will, or this essay will. In this case, they've said the latter one, this essay will. What can we use? Which words here? You guys saying explain, examine, discuss, analyze, outline, illustrate. Wow. Okay, so you guys have been looking at this one. You have a lot of ideas. Um, consider is another option here. So you want to stick a verb in there. These changes and whether they are. Okay, focus on the first blank here. Check. Okay, check whether they are. It sounds like they're going to make some kind of decision or explanation. Okay, let's say discuss. All right. So okay, so they're okay, excuse me. So they're going through that. They're just going to outline and describe a bit more in the body paragraphs, whether they are beneficial. Yeah, some of you guys mentioned it. Or when talking about the negative aspects, what's the adjective for negative? Cindy says harmful. That's a good one. Leah says detrimental. Some good options there. Okay, advantages doesn't fit there. If we want to use advantages as an adjective, we can say advantageous. Let me write that one, guys, for you in the chat box. So EOUS on the end. Okay, I think they've gone for harmful here, yeah? All right, so as you can see, the introduction will be about 40 or 50 words, about 2 sentences, not too long. Yeah, you just want to introduce what is going to come up next in the body paragraphs. I won't speak too much about this, but yeah, we also have some useful language that we can use in there as well, but we've looked at most of it. Right, moving on to the body paragraph. So the first one we are talking about what the changes are. So we had some notes up the top. You can see them there. It's up to you. You could, or you could choose one of them and explain it in more detail. So in this case, um, oh, okay, something's happening with my screen here. Just hold on a moment, guys. I think, yeah, there seems to be a technical issue here. Just let me get that sorted. Okay, I was just double check. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, sorry about that. Sometimes here where I am, the internet will cut out from time to time. Okay, let's continue. And yeah, so as I was saying, we're going to write the first body paragraph answering question number one. And we begin by using our opinion phrase. From my perspective, and this is optional. You could say it's less personal. You could say one of, or you could say um, a closer look at this topic, or you could say, you could just jump into it straight away. On the one hand, there are two major. So what would you put as the major between families in the past and now? Differences. Yeah, Rania, that's up to you. Like most students will be objective. I think it's a better approach. So you can say on the one hand, two of the major differences. Yeah, so that's what they've gone with here. Trends between now and the past. So it doesn't quite fit here because we are actually comparing something, whereas a trend is something that you can see. So the trend is happening now, or it's happening in the past, and you're just focusing on that one point in time. Okay, now, would you start with the present or would you start with the past when making the comparison? Maybe you would start with the past, or many of you guys are giving the linking word. Yeah, that could be a good way to do it as well. So, firstly, okay, firstly, that seems to be the way. The role of the extended family has changed. We want an adverb to describe how much of a change. Significantly. Okay, significantly is a little bit better here than tragically. Tragically is a bit too emotional. Drastically is quite intense as well. Dramatically is a good one, very academic. So you can think about your word choice. Is it academic? IELTS task 2 words usually call for academic words. Okay, so let's see here. Traditionally, grandparents often live together with their children. Okay, this is a tricky one. Probably looking in the past here, used to or had often lived together. So, um, would is a good one, yeah. Okay, so would often live together or used to live together with their children. Um, what do you think with support? Their grandparents give support, provide them with support. Okay, yeah, nice. Providing, um, giving, it's not as good. Offering, yeah, that's another good option. Okay, such as childcare. So there's your example. What do? They helped out in terms of childcare. The second idea, another major change is the role of the breadwinner. Yeah, that's right. In the past, men were typically expected to work, and we're making a comparison to now. So now and the past. So we need a conjunction here. So while or whereas are typically the best ones. Yeah, I think I would go with those two as well. Yeah, these days women are much more likely to have a job and support their family in this way. Transition. We're moving from one point to the current point. So what can we say here? However, all right, yeah, that fits as well. Okay, good stuff. Yeah, no, I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think it would quite fit there because that is too opinionated. So we want to stay neutral. And we're just talking about the change. We're not saying yet, is it a good change? Is it a bad change? All right. So, in terms of grammar, one of the noticeable points will be your tense. So you can see here that to answer the question about the change, up until this point of time, we're talking about the present perfect. We also have some structures, would and verb, to describe actions in the past. That's a little bit of a trickier one. This one here is the continuous. So when you write down the comma, after the comma, you have ing, and this is the past continuous. So something that they were doing, and you can picture it in your mind. They are continuing in that action. And we have some other tenses here as well. Looks like we have some present tense and some past simple tense. Well, there's a few different ones because we are comparing 2 points in time. So we have many tenses available to us. So if you can use at least two or three tenses in this answer, it would be a good way to indicate your grammatical range. And grammatical range just means different types of sentences. Yeah, we do have some vocabulary related to the topic here. Extended family, childcare, breadwinner is another one. All right, so moving on to uh, body paragraph two. All right, guys, how are we doing so far? Does that make sense? Yeah, so from this point on, we're just going to continue with the approach, the style of writing, and we're just changing which question we're going to answer here. So now we are looking at do you think this is a positive or negative trend? Okay, so the writer here starts off with, in my opinion, these changes have had both positive and negative. And how would you guys fill in the blank space there? Okay, impacts, effects, aspects. Aspects is kind of talking about something which is typical that you usually see. But this one is talking about the effect. Yeah. So something that has happened because of the change. Consequences. Consequences is a bit negative, right? So positive consequences, usually we say positive effects, I think. So that's a good vocabulary. Maybe reserve that for another sentence. Perhaps in your conclusion. The lack of support from grandparents means that parents might need to arrange for their children. And they might need to arrange much time, extra time. They might need to arrange support, funds. Interesting points, guys. I think you are on the right track there. Someone to take care of their children. Yeah. So the word for this is babysitters. Uh, I guess you could say might need to arrange childcare for their children, but then you're repeating child and children. So then you would just say that parents might need to arrange childcare. Okay. Uh, other part here, so we can say which can be expensive because we're describing an extra bit of information related to this. Yeah, why is this relevant? Well, the thing is, it's important for people because it can be expensive. Furthermore, older people may become what from their families? Distant, isolated. Yeah, isolated is a good one there. Okay, and how does this relate to loneliness? Leading to loneliness. Okay, yep. Contributing could be another one. And then we move on to talking about the other side. So we kind of talked about some negative things. However, we want to mention something positive. So what we can say here is, on the other hand, the changing roles of the modern family has what in greater freedom for women? Has resulted. Nice. Yeah. I think that's the best word to fit there. Who can now choose to a career which interests them? Can now choose to pursue. Yeah, fantastic. Good. Ensuring their family's financial security. Wow. Okay, it's good stuff, guys. So I see that you're noticing all the main points here. Just a quick point about linking words. Linking words, the examiner will be circling them on your page and giving you a score for coherence and cohesion. What is coherence and cohesion? Well, it's how your sentences logically link from one to the next. Yeah. So if we have here, furthermore, so this is something which is giving an added point. So we can say firstly, we can say secondly, we can say furthermore as well. On the one hand, on the other hand, those are all linking words. Excuse me, let me just come back to the page here. Yep, so noticing grammar again. And this time we've mostly been talking about uh, present perfect, so the past to the present. That makes sense? Yeah, okay. So because we need to talk about the effects. So the effects, you could talk about that in the present, right? But this is just a more complex way to do it. Or a more advanced tense would be present perfect. We're also using here modal verbs. Modal verbs are could, can, may, might, and would. And the reason they're using these words is to describe results of changes in the present. So they might need to arrange babysitters, not all the time. Um, most of your ideas will be general. So it's not true all the time. So it's a good idea to use words like might or may or could, okay, rather than has resulted in. Usually this is 100% true. So usually we'll only choose this for something that can be seen most of the time or always. Okay, and yeah, we have some relative pronouns in there. Can you see the comma, which, comma, who? Most of the time that is there to give extra information to make your sentences longer. And in body paragraphs, we're, in the business of getting more details into our ideas. Okay, so if you take a look at this paragraph, it would be somewhere between 80 and 100 words, which is a nice amount. How many sentences do we have here? One, two, three, four. That's a very long sentence at the end there. So 4 to 5 sentences. Try to make most of your sentences complex sentences. So when you have a sentence here, you can add, like, for example, you can add a relative pronoun here, and then you can have this clause here. And here we have the second clause. If I just scribble over here. Yeah, can you see these two parts of the sentence are different? So the lack of support from grandparents means that parents might need to arrange babysitters for their children. This sentence can stop. Yeah. This is an independent clause. So if we want to make a complex sentence, independent clause is not enough. So we add a dependent clause. This part in red, which can be expensive, cannot be a sentence. So we are adding first independent clause and then dependent clause. And this is the way to really improve your grammatical range. So jumping from band 6 to band 7 if you're doing these kinds of things. So take notice of that one. That's usually quite a challenge. Okay. Any vocabulary here? Um, Win, I think if you come back to the website tomorrow, you maybe can see a recording. So the lack of support, arrange babysitters, contributing to loneliness, all of these words are related to family life or social life. So topic words. Freedom, pursue a career, things like that. Financial security. Oh, we got some good vocabulary there. Okay, so the final thing you want to do is just wrap up your essay here. We summarize, we restate what we have said. No new ideas. So you can say, in conclusion, I would argue that the changes experienced by families in today's society are generally positive. As women now have greater opportunities to join the workforce. Here, what we're doing here is we have the opinion, the answer to the question, pretty directly, yeah? So this person is saying mostly positive. Okay, but actually we have here the other side of the discussion, which we included in our essay. And this is called a concession statement. So if you guys want to do this, somewhere in your body paragraph and then in your conclusion, you are talking about this is true most of the time, but here's the limit. So I said all of this, but up to this point, this is when it doesn't actually be, when it's not positive anymore, the limitation. This is a concession statement, and we can say something like, having said all of this, in my opinion, society should still consider something else. Yeah. Okay, so concession statement, also a useful one to look up for. What did they say here? However, in my opinion, the isolation of older people is a problem which society should attempt to address. Okay. So the answer to the question is both sides, but they have answered with their opinion directly, and they have actually said yes most of the time. That really is more positive than negative, I would say. So those ones are usually easier to answer. When we take this all together, we have 260 words. So we have hit the word count. And I would just say if you are aiming for band 6.5 and above, try to write a little bit more, like 260, 280 words. But don't write too much. So when you get to 300 words, definitely stop. So you will not get more points for writing more words in your essay. So make sure that you answer both questions. Make a plan, always make a plan, even if you think, it's spending me some time. I'm taking up time doing this. It's quite useful. And then check your writing for spelling and grammar mistakes as well. This will help you to tidy things up. Okay, so that's the end of today's webinar, looking at the writing task 2 direct question. And as we finish off, I'm going to take some questions. We'll do a short Q&A session. But before this, I want to share with you one of the programs that is offered by IELTS Online Test in addition to our free webinars. So just to know, if you're interested in learning more about writing task 2, please come back to the webinars in the future. We have the webinar on agree, disagree essay, I think also problem solution. So that's a useful way to get some idea about where to get started. But if you're looking for more in-depth guidance and closer shadowing or closer instruction, we are offering one-on-one IELTS lessons with a tutor, and you can learn how to overcome the challenges that you are currently facing. So if it's grammar, your teacher is quickly going to see this, and they're going to give you some feedback about your grammar, which points or exercises you need to improve. And yeah, the thing is that these courses are customized totally based on your abilities, so you can get direct feedback. Well, the other point I'm going to mention here is that the schedule is flexible, so whenever you have time to study, there's probably a tutor available for that, so the timings can be adjusted. All right, so if you guys are interested in that, I'll let you know that I'm one of the tutors on that program. And I'm currently working with a student who is mainly focused on reading and writing. So we're making great progress there. She's taking the test in April, I think. So it's nice to give yourself like about 3 to 6 months when you're studying for IELTS. If you are interested in those programs, you can learn more by signing up for a trial class or just contacting my colleague. And you can do this by scanning the QR code on the board here. So I will just leave this up here. You can use your mobile phone, just scan it on the screen and it should work. All right, so just to finish up, I'll ask you guys to share with me any of the questions that you have. So if you guys have any questions relating to writing task 2, go ahead, let me know. If you come back to the website tomorrow, you should be able to find this recording or other lessons as well. Yeah, so Nakityo, what is paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is just writing the question in your own words, not the words that are on the page. So you are changing the way that the question looks. And there's a lot of key vocabulary that you can learn that will be repeated. For example, problem can be paraphrased with issue. Benefit can be paraphrased with merit or advantage. So if you learn these, it will be easy for you to quickly apply. Also think about word form. Word form, changing a word from noun to adjective, just making the sentences look a bit different. Okay, Pang here says, if I have to get more than band 6.5, I should write 280 to 390 words. I think you mean 290. Yeah. Um, Not necessarily, but it can help. Yeah, so most of the time, Band 7, they will write an essay 260, 270 words. They will not find it difficult to write 250. Yeah, so with a Band 5 student, maybe getting to 250 words is the priority, answering the question. What if I don't include examples? Which band will I get? Well, it depends. How many grammar mistakes did you make? Were you using complex sentences? Was your vocabulary varied? Um, if you do all of those things, well, not including examples might not be a big thing, but you do need to make sure you develop your ideas. So you take what your answer is, what is the idea, and then you develop it in some way. That could be talking about examples, that could be explaining, that could be comparing, that could be talking about the consequences. There are actually different ways that you can do it. Listing, listing multiple ideas. Make sure you explain those multiple ideas as well. Even if I read a band 7 paragraph, when I write it myself, I only get a 6. So what should I do? So um, the thing is, if you actually understand the ideas, then the skill of you have the skill required to take this test and achieve band 7. But actually, to achieve band 7, you will need to work on your language skills. So there are two things, language skills and general skills, essay writing skills. Language skills is mostly vocabulary and grammar, or expressing yourself clearly when you write. So those things you would need to work more on. Sometimes it can be the case of just practicing a few essays to get used to essay writing and maybe doing some grammar exercises as well. By the way, so if you need more ideas for task 2, you should be doing more reading and listening on IELTS topics. This will help you to think about which types of ideas to talk about. Okay, a lot of questions coming here, so we'll have to be selective. If I used a lot of complex sentences with good grammar but wrong spelling, would it affect my score tremendously? No, I don't think that's the case. As long as you attempt and you try to use complex sentences, you will definitely be recognized for that, and you will pick up points in the grammatical category. But if you're spelling a lot of spelling mistakes, yes, this will usually affect you, maybe in vocabulary or grammar, probably grammar as well. So you will increase by having a range in your sentence. You may decrease if you have too many errors, but a few errors is not going to affect your score too much. Yeah, in terms of your ideas, just make sure they are clear, they they are communicated well, then I think you should be okay. All right, guys. So we are going to wrap up today's session. Thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar. Appreciate, all of your focus and answering questions as we go along. Definitely makes my job a lot easier. So you guys can see if you are interested in the one-on-one course, my colleague has put a link in the chat box. So you might want to take note of that. But yes, as I mentioned, if you are interested in learning more about the IELTS approach and building your skills so you're ready for the IELTS, do come back to our website for more webinars in the future. And I hope to see you in one of those in the future then. Okay, and take care for now, and goodbye, everyone.